see. There she is. Thank you, everybody,
Hello,
and
hello,
welcome
hello.
to Ignite Goat Mentality. I
Yes,
am
yes.
Dr. Karen Walker, your Marine Corps veteran.
And I am Charmin Jacobs, your Navy veteran.
We're so happy to have you join us. And one of the things when we started this is we were like, we want to do this like any time, any place, right? Be kind of expeditionary. So we are, ebbing and flowing. So I love your background, success after discharge, and we want to continue to ignite goat mentality wherever you are as well.
Yeah,
Tonight's
yeah.
topic is finding motivation in difficult times. And for you, Charmin, just, a lot of that motivation really deep down is about purpose. So what would you say, is really your purpose?
Oh, wow. It's funny you asked. I just did an exercise um to define my purpose, right? Especially after service. So if you don't mind, I'll read it to you because
Sure.
I don't know it by heart. And I don't know if you're familiar, I'm sure you are because you're just talented. But Napoleon Hill he has a definite purpose. Um, and he has like a whole little script that you write out. And so I did that exercise, and here it is. It says, I, Charmin Jacobs, will be my family's first billionaire, multi-business billionaire. In return, I will create a movement to help my sisters in arms leave their military service and never have to respectfully request their time off again. Starting October 9th, 2023, I will develop, create, and market the success after discharge linchpin following the framework of my mentor slash coach, Russell Brunson, to generate 1 million in revenue by
Ooh, wee.
October 1st, 2024. I will be intentional and focused so that I am living a life of greatness while creating a legacy and generational wealth for my family.
Wow,
So,
I love that. You know what I really like about that is I heard all those hidden little SMART goals in there. When we talk about being smart, that whole like being measurable, actionable, and timely. I heard all of that in there, and I think, when you're being purposeful, you have to make sure that you have that in there. And I like that when we're trying to find purpose and staying motivated, even when times can be difficult,
mhm.
that you are deliberate in finding purpose. I think for me, yes, in business, in as an entrepreneur, you have to take time, to be purposeful. But I think also in life, finding purpose is important. And as veterans, that is something like I had to take time out this year and do. I went on like a veterans retreat to kind of refocus myself and find that purpose. And I think for a lot of veterans, you do that because when you're in service, you're serving and you kind of like have that purpose, right? That camaraderie
Mhm.
and being purposeful. But as a veteran, sometimes, you pull away and you pull back and you're like, man, I'm trying to find like some purpose. But I think definitely like getting back, to being like faith-based, that's important to me, my faith and like family is, purposeful and friendships. So I think for me this year, like just being more purposeful in my faith, with my family and my friendships. So for
Oh, the
me,
F's. I like it. I
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
it. The
So
F's.
finding purpose for me this year was about, I guess, like the F's, right? So that's what I would say. So number two for tonight is what are your values? So sometimes,
Mm.
people think those might be the same thing, right? Like your purpose and your values might be the same, but so what would you say are your values?
Well, one of the ones, I like commitment, right?
Hmm.
And I also like collaboration.
Yeah, I like that
I,
a lot.
I also like inclusivity, equality,
Yeah.
and I'm gonna throw in there another C, like communication,
Mm,
like
yeah.
open communication where you can be vulnerable, right?
Yeah.
So many, so many times, um, as a naval officer, you don't show your vulnerability. That's a sign of weakness. So I needed to throw that in as I'm in this next stage, is to be
Yeah.
vulnerable. Yeah.
Well, tell me your perspective on that. I'm gonna sit on that one for a minute because I think vulnerability, though, people a lot of times are like, well, vulnerability, that's just like showing your feelings, or like, what is that, or like vulnerability.
Like when I think of like vulnerability is just being able, well, yeah, it is
Because there's
showing
like two
your
different perspectives sometimes. Sometimes people are like, oh, it's just being vulnerable, like that's too touchy-feely, or being vulnerable is like being real, like being true to yourself.
right. That's okay, authentic. All
Yeah,
right.
I like that.
Authentic.
That's another way to think of it.
But vulnerability is like I have to be my authentic self, and sometimes my authentic self I have to be vulnerable because I do not want to bottle up any of my emotions that will fester into potentially something that is not positive. And
Mm,
so it's okay to be able to have those trusting relationships with those that you can be vulnerable with, that you can have those conversations with, that you
right,
can share those feelings with,
right.
and it be okay, and the person is not like so judgmental. There to listen. If you
Right.
ask, like you're like, hey, how would you like for me to show up for you today? Right? Like, am I listening or am I advising, or
Wow,
how
I
would you
like
like for me to
that.
show up?
I
You know,
really like that
so yeah, I mean, I think we put our guard up so much
for sure.
till
I, I think that as women veterans, we do that. It's like very
yeah.
easy to kind of put that guard up, want to like, be independent and kind of protect ourselves in that way. But being vulnerable is more than just like, you know, going out there and being like loose with it in a sense of like, hey,
Yeah. And
but
not
it's
and okay.
almost being true, like you're
Hmm.
saying.
Yeah, and not only that, like being okay with making mistakes or missteps,
Mm,
shall I say. They're
right.
missteps, right?
Yeah.
Because sometimes we don't want to. Failure is good.
Yeah.
Failure means
Yeah.
that you try. So you got to be
Right.
vulnerable to put yourself out there.
Right.
I may stumble over some of my words on some of my videos, but it's okay because when people start really, really watching me,
Sure.
then they'll see my transition and know that I'm
Sure.
not perfect and know that
Right.
guess what? If she can do it, I can do it. And that's
Yeah.
that's my whole goal.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I think for me, I mean, I love how you said commitment because, as Marines and Navy, right, our values were honor, courage, commitment. Uh, and we shared those. But I think for me, values, of course, you have family values that you grew up with, but
Mm-hmm.
as I've kind of matured in my leadership style, I definitely agree with you. Collaboration, that's super important to me because I think you have to learn to kind of be the we and not the I in the things that you do. And as a veteran, learning how to collaborate because in order to get things done, sometimes it's not so much about the task, it's about the relationships. And that's a hard thing to learn when you get out of the military because military is so task oriented. It's like we have to get the job done. It's not always about the people and building those relationships. So I agree with you there. But I'd also go a step further, and I think integrity is so important to me as a value. And I think that in the sense of like doing what you say you're going to do and backing that up. And that's more than just like in business. It's like just going back to that relationship building.
Hmm.
For me, that's a really important thing in how I keep my friendships and my relationships. And it can be small, but like if you say you're gonna do something, that's a big deal to me. And I like to do that too. Like if I say I'm gonna be somewhere or I'm gonna, do something with a friend like that, that's important to me. So I say that that's a big value. And as a leader, that should be a important value too, is having someone's back, and doing what you say you're gonna do. So,
Right. Because I
um,
think with that, it's all about trust.
yeah,
And how can anybody trust you if you don't have good integrity? If you don't stand by your word, sometimes, because I remember my mom when she was here with us, she would never make a promise. She said
mm,
promises are meant to be kept. She would say, I try
right.
my best. So I learned I
Oh,
I
wow.
learned not to tell my kids that I promised. Like they were like, Mom, you promised? Nah, nah.
Wow.
I'll do my best because promises are
Wow.
made to be kept. And
Right.
so I get
That's
that whole
big.
integrity and that word, and I love that. So
I like that
yeah,
too. Wow.
no
So,
promises. I'll try my
yeah, so
best.
that, yeah, so I like that. So that leads us into the third one though, is like, so what's kind of like your biggest like strength in that, or maybe your weakness? Um, in terms of like us talking about staying motivated in difficult times. How do you, kind of explore those strengths and weaknesses?
So I think um one when it comes to staying motivated and with strength and weaknesses, like just having a positive mindset, if you will, with that you can't be perfect in everything, but find your who. There's somebody out here that is stronger in an area that you are not. And so that is where that relationship comes in, right? Because again, I'm not trying to be Michelin in a sense of creating any tires. I just want to be Michelin where I'm retreading a tire on some
Yeah.
things. So where I'm weak, I find friendships that are strong. I lean on those that have a skill set that I don't. And
Mm,
where I'm strong, I offer my 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 value and my skill
yeah.
sets
Yeah, I
as
agree.
well.
That is a good thing that you really help out with, in terms of like connection, um, and bringing that value to the table. I think strengths and weaknesses, like we talked about, is, in terms of like keeping your motivation, um, yeah, leaning on others, and also I think probably knowing what your weaknesses are sometimes, right? So I think not just sitting in that darkness, in that hole. So I think like sometimes, if I can be really hard on myself, I think like a lot of people maybe have that, especially veterans, but knowing that as a weakness, that, allow yourself maybe like, okay, I can sit in that place for a little bit, but knowing that I can dwell in there. So trying to pull yourself out of it and like go for walks, find like where, you can find like the sunshine, and who, can also help bring you out of that. So I think that's important, right? Knowing those weaknesses, knowing those weak points for you, like, and sometimes I'd say like if it's like if you're trying to get back in shape and like your favorite dessert place is like on your way home, like maybe change the way you're going home. Like I don't know, whatever like your vice is, sometimes knowing what that vice is can help too, because you can also like help like yourself out and motivate yourself, but even like tell other people to like, hey, I'm working on this, and they can hold you accountable a little bit.
Oh, definitely, definitely.
Mm.
I have a friend and says that she's just holding space,
Mm,
right? Just holding space. Like sometimes you have your low valleys, and then you have your high valleys. And when you're in
right.
your low valley, you need that collaboration, that those friends that you can be vulnerable with, that is just holding space. for
For
you,
sure.
because sometimes you just want to sit in it for a minute,
Right.
right? In some of those weaknesses,
For
right?
sure. So we're running short on time, but like, how do you stay positive? So when we're finding motivation in difficult times, right? And for veterans out
Mm-hmm.
there, what do you say to stay positive?
A positive mindset. Find the
Mm,
sunshine in the clouds. It's there. It's just
yeah,
behind the cloud. So just
yeah,
find it. Just like positive affirmations, right?
yeah.
Sweet talk yourself.
Oh, I like
There's
that.
some attributes that you have, and that just sweet talk yourself.
I really
Be a
like
sense
that.
of
That should be a
like
t-shirt. You
a
know, you
sense
have
of
great t-shirt sayings. Sweet talk yourself. I love that.
well, that's not mine. Again, that's a friend of
Oh,
mine,
really?
and she shared it with me. Yeah, I told her I was like, yeah,
Oh, well,
yeah. Well,
hey,
see
if
Simone
the
Rivers,
t-shirt's
that's
not
hers.
taken, then that should be a
Yeah,
t-shirt.
yeah,
I
yeah,
I
and
agree. I I would add to that though is in terms of positivity, because sometimes you just don't have it to bring it. And the main thing is that it's fleeting, right? It's short, right? And to know that I'm gonna get through this and that this is just like a very short time period. Because I think sometimes that little bit can really, really help to know like I'm gonna get through this period and like God gave you this like mini trial and you're gonna like overcome it like really like that can help sometimes to know like this is just like this is like this piece, but there's so much more that's gonna be really, really great.
and to that, from a spiritual standpoint, is he's never gonna put you through anything that he's not gonna pull you through.
Ooh, I love that too. Yeah, absolutely.
So
That's great.
know that.
So, well, and that, in when we're talking about igniting goat mentality, I
Yeah.
have that gift for you. So, you've been talking about, so this is our merch, but igniting goat mentality, but I have something even better that's coming to you. So you're gonna have to show everybody once you get it.
Well,
But
I do have on a little something, something today.
yeah, that's right.
I'm just a little
That's right.
chilly,
Our
you
combat
know.
boots to heels. That's right.
Yeah,
Uh,
not mine. Yeah.
Yeah. So when we're talking about, igniting goat mentality, we just want to encourage you to use it or you'll
Or you
lose
lose
it.
it.
That's right.
Yeah.
So continue to join us and you can check out Success After Discharge, more of that with Charmin Jacobs, any of her social media. Of course, you can continue to follow us at Dr. Karen Walker Official. Um, any other parting words?
I just, Jay, look, just sign up for my newsletter. I'm giving some great tips, tricks, tools, resources with regards to 5 areas that women veteran are really have a need: access to care, mental health, military transition, social connectivity, and finances. So free
Thanks,
information.
everybody.
Information is free. Yeah.